Hello and welcome to this Magic the Gathering Streets of New Capenna Draft Primer. It's Al here with you, and this is how to draft MTG. As always, please do click like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and leave a comment with your questions or comments below. In this video, we're going to start with the mechanics of Streets of New Capenna and briefly talk about strategies for each of the 5 archetypes. Streets of New Capenna is a shard set, meaning it is designed to support the original 5 3-color combinations from Shards of Alara. It's a set that came out like 10 or 15 years ago, don't worry about it. Each color combination now represents a family. The OBSCURA family in white, blue, and black. The MAESTROS family in blue, black, and red. The RIVETEERS family in black, red, and green, the CABARETTI family in red, green, and white, and the Brokers family in green, white, and blue. Only these 5 archetypes are supported in Streets of New Capenna, as opposed to the traditional 10 color pairs. Note that the allied color pairs, white-blue, blue-black, black-red, red-green, and green-white, are present in 2 families each. I recommend drafting towards one of these allied color pairs and splashing the 3rd color of one or both adjacent families. For example, red-green splashing black, or white, or both. As a general rule, I recommend against starting a draft in an enemy color pair, being white-black, white-red, blue-red, blue-green, or black-green, as these are only present in one family's 3-color combination. Now let's have a look at the mechanics of each of the 5 3-color families, starting with OBSCURA and the CONNIVE mechanic. When a creature connives, draw a card, then discard a card. If a non-land card is discarded, the creature gets a +1/+1 counter. This will be an excellent way to gain an advantage over a longer game. These decks will likely be more controlling as opposed to more aggressive. Connive will pair well with cards that have an effect when in the graveyard, such as Expendable Lackey, Halo Scarab, and Maestro's Initiate, or cards that want us to put counters on our creatures, like Celestial Regulator, Exotic Pets, and Metropolis Angel. And it will work well with cards that ask us to fill up our graveyard, such as Snooping Newsy and Syndicate Infiltrator. Next is Maestros with the Casualty mechanic. Sacrifice a creature with the required power to copy a spell with Casualty. The spells with Casualty 1 appear to be the most desirable and easiest to fulfill. Look for cheap value creatures like Corrupt Court Official, Expendable Lackey, and Unlucky Witness, cheap creatures with the Blitz abilities such as Mayhem Patrol, Plasma Jockey, and Riveteer Requisitioner, or cards that trigger when a creature is sacrificed like Body Dropper and Forge Boss. Next is Riveteers with the Blitz mechanic. A creature cast for its Blitz cost gains haste, is sacrificed at the next end step, and draws us a card when it dies. As mentioned previously, this ability pairs well with cheap casualty spells like Grisly Sigil and Light 'em Up, since the creature is going to be sacrificed anyway. Blitz also works well with cards that trigger when a creature is sacrificed, such as Body Dropper, Forge Boss, and cards that ask us to fill up our graveyard, such as Sanguine Spy. This appears to be the most aggressive archetype in the format, with lots of focus on attacking. Next, we'll look at Cabaretti and the Alliance mechanic. Cards with Alliance trigger an effect when a creature enters the battlefield under our control. Many Alliance cards want us to trigger them multiple times in a turn. As such, look for creatures or spells that put multiple creatures into play, like Exhibition Magician, cards that repeatedly generate creatures such as Darling of the Masses, and cards that reward us for having a lot of creatures in play, like For the Family. Cabaretti will aim to develop a large army of creatures to overwhelm the opponent. Finally, let's look at brokers and shield counters. If a creature with a shield counter would be dealt damage or destroyed, the shield counter is removed instead. Creatures can have multiple shield counters and thus multiple layers of protection. Shield counters will pair well with high-value creatures like Ballroom Brawlers, Cleanup Crew, and Wing Shield Agent, cards that ask us to put counters on our creatures such as Backstreet Bruiser, Celestial Regulator, and Metropolis Angel, and ways to augment our creatures like Arc Spitter, Gilded Pinions, and Security Bypass. Brokers appear to be more tempo-oriented due to the temporary nature of shield counters. Brokers will want to capitalize on an early advantage while disrupting their opponent's game plan. In addition to these 5 families and their mechanics, each allied color pair has its own theme that synergizes with its adjacent family's mechanics. White-Blue's theme is counters. White-Blue contains cards that get better if we control creatures with counters on them, such as Celestial Regulator, Exotic Pets, and Metropolis Angel. Look for creatures with the Connive abilities, such as Echo Inspector, Illuminator Virtuoso, and Rafine's Informant, or cards that put counters on creatures like Backup Agent, Boon of Safety, and Slip Out the Back. Creatures that enter with shield counters on them, such as Dapper Shieldmate and Wing Shield Agent, work well here, along with creatures like Fairy Vandal, which incidentally gain counters. Blue-Black's theme is 5 or more mana values in your graveyard. Couldn't keyword this one, eh? Cards like Sewer Crocodile, Syndicate Infiltrator, and Tainted Indulgence want us to fill up our graveyard with different mana values. This clause acts as a nice payoff if we are already conniving a bunch with cards like Hypnotic Grifter, Psionic Snoop, and Rafine's Silencer. Sacrificing creatures to casualty spells like A Little Chat, Join the Maestros, and Rooftop Nuisance can help us fill up our graveyard, along with milling ourselves with cards like Deal Gone Bad, Dig Up the Body, and Snooping Newsy. Black-Red's theme in New Capenna is Sacrifice, as it has been in so many sets in the past. Cards like Body Dropper, Fatal Grudge, and Forge Boss ask us to sacrifice creatures and trigger an effect when we do. We'll want some good sacrifice fodder like Corrupted Court Official, Exhibition Magician's Assistant, and Unlucky Witness. Creatures with the Blitz ability, such as Nightclubber, Plasma Jockey, and Pugnacious Pugilist, which must be sacrificed as part of their ability, can get us a little extra value here. If we're already interested in sacrificing creatures to pay for casualty on cards like Dig Up the Body, Grisly Sigil, and Light 'em Up, we can get a little extra value on those as well. Next is Red-Green with the Treasure mechanic. Certain cards create treasure tokens which can be sacrificed to produce 1 mana of any color. I believe Treasure will be very powerful in Streets of New Capenna, as this is a multicolor set. Red and green may have an advantage over the other colors just by having access to better mana fixing via Treasure. Cards like Exhibition Magician, Jewel Thief, and Riveteer's Requisitioner are good rate creatures that make Treasure. Adding Treasure to a card that would otherwise be good on its own has historically been very powerful. Anyone who's played Adventures in the Forgotten Realms a few sets ago can attest to this. Jetmir's Fixer and Security Rocks are quote-unquote treasure payoffs, but I suspect all the incidental mana fixing is where the power really lies here. Treasure will make splashing Riveteers and Cabaretti cards a breeze in our red-green base decks. Finally, green-white with the Citizens mechanic. Cards like Angelic Observer, Ceremonial Groundbreaker, and Civil Servant want us to support them with Citizens. We can generate them in the form of tokens with cards like Darling of the Masses, Citizen's Crowbar, and Warm Welcome. But also look out for non-token creatures that have the Citizen type, such as Backup Agent, Cleanup Crew, and Gathering Throng. If we gather enough Citizens, maybe we can take it to the streets. And that concludes our video on the mechanics of Streets of New Capenna. Up next, we're going to take a look at mana fixing, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.